everybody, it's Tony Wyatt from Wyatt and Dad Cobbler Company, and today I think we have a really special project for you from Beckett Simonon. They sent us a brand new pair of boots to do a recraft and review. So we're going to start with an unboxing. We're going to break them down and review them for you, and then we're going to put our special little twist on them in the recraft. And I hope you enjoy it. And as Tobias always says, stick along. Got a cool little label in the lid. Tells you about everything. Nice little note from Beckett Simonon. Thanks to customers like you, I can work at what I love. Thanks. Giovanni Pattern Makers. Each boot's in its own bag. Well, that's a good looking boot right there. They came with a rubber sole because I didn't specify, because I knew we were going to be tearing this thing apart. Oh hey, they look here. They come with an extra set of leather. No, it's not leather, it's a faux leather inner sole to slide in case your fit's not just right. Love the edging on these. Looks like what we call a medium antique. Really nice, smooth, clean. I mean, overall, it's a good looking boot right there, especially for the price point. Oh, and there's a card in here. What does this say? Thank you for your purchase. We truly value you as a part of the Beckett Simonon community. Not only does your business help to support the longevity of our company, it also supports the livelihoods of our entire team, and I get 20% off my next order. All I have to do is apply with this code. So it's a gift from them for getting a pair of shoes from them, so you automatically start saving money. These are a Blake stitch construction. Even though it has a stitch on top of the welt, that's a fake stitch, and that's a fake welt. They're a Blake stitch construction, so don't be fooled by that when you see the stitching on the bottom and the stitching on the top. So they don't line up. This is further in, and we're going to find that out as we go into recrafting. So hope you guys enjoy. First thing I need to do, because I know it's Blake stitched and we're going to Blake stitch it, is I've got to remove this leather liner. So you can see it has a nice leather liner with a slight foam in the heel to give you a heel cushion feeling. It does have a paper inner sole, and looking inside you can see there's nails holding the heel bases on from the inside. And in the forefoot area you can see the stitching that is the Blake stitch. So it is Blake stitched from here around to here. This stitching here is not going all the way through the boot. It's not necessary, so they didn't do that, but that's what we're looking at structure wise. So let's tear these heels and stuff off and see how these things are put together. Okay, so we've got a solid leather heel base. Looks like a pretty good quality one too. Doesn't come apart easy. So that's nice, but it's a tight grain leather, not real fleshy. And a lot of bases they'll use the fleshy as part of the leather, and then that can create squeaks. This one's a really good tight grain leather, so it's a good quality base. So now one of the things that you see us do when we're cutting off Goodyear welted shoes, we'll stick our knife in here and we'll slide it around and cut all the stitches, because we're cutting the interlock of the stitch. With these, they're a Blake stitch, so the easier way is for us to just grind the top of that stitch off. We can peel it and get to the next layer, and then we can pick the stitches with these. Let's see what kind of midsole they used. Alright, so we've got the Blake stitch. You can see here I pulled a little bit of it up, and then I'll go in the inside and pick, and I've got to get these nails out of here. So I said earlier that the from the inside the stitching went from here to here, around this way, and didn't come down here, but obviously once we got the sole off it does come all the way back. However, when we looked inside we didn't see that, and what happened was the Blake stitching came around to the areas I said. They went right up under the edge of the inner sole right there, so I wasn't being able to see them on either side, and a lot of lesser quality companies do what I was talking about, so they do bring it all the way back, which is good. So it just shows that they do a little more than I thought they did. Let's get these stitches out of here. And while I'm picking these stitches, I want to cover the fact that a lot of people think that a Goodyear welted shoe is better than a Blake stitch shoe. It's not really true. They have some very high-end Blake stitch shoes. They're very good construction. A lot of people think you can't re-sole a Blake stitch shoe as many times as you can a Goodyear welted shoe. And that is true to a minor degree. So the reason you can re-sole a Goodyear welted shoe more times than a Blake is because you can take off the welt and replace it and start all over. And if you're, do it the correct way by hand sewing the welt on, you can re-sole it. But there are companies that have Recraft programs where they put new welts on every time they recraft their shoes, and they'll only recraft them 3 times because they don't do that. They don't hand sew the welt on, so they're not benefited any more so than a Blake stitch shoe. Matter of fact, I've had customers who've had Blake stitch shoes resold 6 to 10 times, and they were still in good shape the last time we did them. It wasn't questionable, and then they finally just decided to get new shoes, so they didn't have to have those welts replaced, and didn't get them the shoe cut in half with getting new welts. So what we have here is we have a leather midsole, and we have what looks like a storm welt, but I don't want to take this apart because I have dealt with Beckett Simonons before, and I know that this is typically attached for the reason of giving it a rapid Blake look. And so I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to take this whole thing off so we can get up underneath there and see what's what. Now, unless I feel that this shoe is loose and gonna squeak, I don't normally take this part apart when I'm doing a recraft, because as you can see, these are attached very well, and so it's really not necessary to do this, but I'm doing this for this video so that everybody can see how these are made. You can see how well this is glued and bonded to the upper, and why it's not necessary to take it off. I'm hoping I don't destroy this, because I want to reuse this part for my own personal shoes. Hard to get that leverage I need because these things are stuck good. Okay, so we've got a really good quality leather midsole here. Now looking at the upper leather, don't worry about this coming loose. All this can be bonded back together like it should be. The main thing is that you see there's a paper inner sole, and then you've got a good hard fiber 3/4 length shank area, and it's got a steel shank. You see that rivet right there? So that rivet is where it comes through the steel shank and attaches it to this, and the paper inner sole is glued on the other side. So this is a good sturdy steel shank that's in here, so that's nice because you don't have to worry about arch support, because as I was pulling on this, if this was the cheaper steel shanks, it would have bent and bowed. It's kept its curve, which means that it's a good Springer steel instead. So they really putting this boot together for the money you pay for it, I'm telling you. Now it's just a matter of us putting this thing back together and going from there. So as you notice, I'm reusing this midsole and welt instead of doing all new welts, even though I tore it off. I'm doing that because it's a good quality welt. But the main reason that I want to do this is I want to keep the repair close to the same price point, or to be equivalent to the price point of the boot, instead of doing a repair that is beyond what it would take to just get a new pair of boots. One thing I like about the way this is built is there's not a lot of nails around the back of the heel here that are unnecessary, so when I go to re-blake this down, I can do a 360 blake, and then this bad boy will be solid. I don't ever have to worry about it coming apart. Okay, so I talked about earlier about saving this fake welt. We have fake welting. This is a good quality leather fake welt, and it was done. This is one that's being worked on right now by one of our craftsmen, Josh, and you can see he put the stitching in it. It didn't come with the stitching. He's not done with the job yet, but you can see he's done the fake welt around this one. So another Blake Stitch construction shoe. The reason that I wanted to keep this was because it is a good quality, and like I mentioned before, how I didn't want to take this build beyond the price point of the boot that we're rebuilding. But it is available for anybody who wants that kind of thing. So the trick here for you cobblers is to make sure you don't draw it in too tight. And what I do is I see the lines where the paper tore. It's kind of like little marks that were made on it, and that's what I'm trying to get lined up. When we stick the original sole back on, we're going to see if I did a good job or not. Okay, so for the cobblers again, the trick to getting this right is to get the heel stuck, and then make sure you get that toe stuck just right. And then everything else in the middle should line up. It seems to be lining up real well. I'm comfortable with it, so now it's time to hammer it. This is at a point where I have to make a decision on what I want to do with this boot. And I know what I want to do with this boot because it's mine. A lot of customers are going to want to go ahead and put the sole on, put a channel, and then Blake stitch through the whole sole and the midsole, just like the factory did it. However, being in the shoe repair industry as long as I have, and knowing how well my glues bond, I don't want to do my own personal boot this way, so I'm going to do it a different way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and rough up this midsole to get a good fleshy piece of leather showing. It'll hold the glue real well. Then I'm going to blake it down, and then I'm going to rough up the leather sole real well, cement both of those, and I'm going to make it a stick-'em. It's what we call them. It's where it's just glued on. The benefit of that is I like to keep my shoes a really long time. I have a pair of Johnston & Murphy Aristocrats that I bought in 1996. I have a couple pair of cowboy boots I bought in 1992, all of which have been resold multiple times, at least 6 to 8 times. And so I like to keep my shoes around a long time. So this one, as I wear the sole out, I will be able to, in the future, just put some solvent on here to break this bond of the glue, pull the sole off, and put a new sole back on, and it'll be a lot simpler on the shoe and won't put it through the stress that you just saw me put this boot through taking it apart. So that's the way we're going to do this one. So if anybody's curious why we're doing it as a glue on only, I'm going to do it that way. And the cool part about it is when I get done, it's going to look like I have a blind stitch shoe instead of an exposed stitch. And people pay extra money to get blind stitches all the time. So this one you don't have to pay the extra money for. Alright, so here we are. We got the JR soles with the Vibram rubber heels, and I did something a little new I've never done before. It's kind of a reddish antiquing on the edging. I thought that looked really cool with the boot, so I went with that instead of the brown. Not much on browns. To recap what the boot is, it's a really good quality boot for the dollar. I like the way it was built for how much you pay for it. I decided to reuse the original Storm Welting and Midsole to keep the cost down on repairs for a consumer who would purchase this type of boot. And in the resole, the reason I went with a rubber heel and the JR sole is because that fits into our standard package with the upgrade to premium leather, and runs you know, in a price point that would be suitable for this type of shoe and boot, and allow you to get a long wearing sole with a good durable heel. Keep everything as is, nice and simple. I mean, you've got a workhorse. No, it's not one of our fancier jobs where we do all the dyeing and stuff, but not everybody is looking for that. And so that's what I went with on this particular boot, because that's the way I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear this thing and you know, take it out and really use it. And so all that fancy stuff is not necessary on this type of boot. So the original had the rubber sole with the rubber heel. The tops look the same when you're looking down because we didn't change anything from the front. And then a little bit different on the edging because I went with that red because I think that looked a little better for my particular taste. You can do other colors as well. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for following along.